Greetings, beloved, and welcome to this video. Today, I want us to consider the significance of the following statement. Lay hold of God's promises. It is a phrase we as Christians are most likely accustomed to either hearing or reading. But what exactly does it mean to lay hold of God's promises? Let's break this phrase down. Let's begin with lay hold. How am I to understand the phrasal verb lay hold? Well, to lay hold is to reach out and firmly grab something with the aim of securing it or not allowing it to slip away. It therefore conveys the idea of intentionality because it is done with purpose. You lay hold of something because you don't want it to slip away. This, I believe, is key to understand. Why? Because we have to understand the language being used to know, one, what is being communicated, and two, what is expected of us. What am I laying a hold of? Well, in this context, it's God's promises. Now, God's promises are not tangible. That is, they are not something I can physically lay a hold of. They are intangible, which means that the phrase lay hold of God's promises is metaphorical, but practical at the same time because it carries practical implications. And this, beloved, is very important to understand. Why? Because we are speaking of a metaphorical phrase that ceases to have meaning if it remains abstract. Yes, it sounds nice. Yes, it's encouraging. Yes, it's uplifting, but it means nothing if we grasp not its practical implications. So, what then are the practical implications of the phrase lay hold of God's promises? Well, first we have to understand what is meant by God's promises, and this is fairly easy. God's promises are the assurances and commitments God has made, those which we find today in Scripture. So, how do I then lay hold of the assurances and commitments God has made if these promises are abstract, if they are intangible? Well, three words: believing, trusting, and living. First, believing that God's promises are true and applicable to my life. Two, trusting God even when circumstances seem challenging. Three, living in a way that reflects confidence in his faithfulness. Beloved, there is so much here to unpack. I mean, for starters, what does it mean to believe? What does it mean to trust? What does it mean, at least in this context, to live? What do these things look like? Questions for another video. For now, or for the purposes of this study, it is suffice to say the following. The call to lay hold of God's promises is not an abstract idea meant to linger in the realm of rhetoric or lofty language. It is rather an invitation to bring the reality of God's faithfulness into the tangible moments of our lives. When we understand the depth of this phrase, it moves us beyond passive faith to active trust, a trust that steps out in faith, claims his promises, and clings to them in the good, the bad, and the ugly. May the Lord today help us understand the language in which he communicates so that we may be a living testimony of that which we preach. God bless, beloved.